disclosure, news and commentary number 50, 50, 50, 50, 50. 50. Yeah. 50 episodes.
That's a lot. It's half a 100.
It's half 100. Okay. Whew. Going to be a lot of homeschooling this spring break. I can tell already. Obviously, me and the kids.
I know the answer. It's just hard to say 100. I'm so used to saying a million because a million subscribers. Right?
That'll be nice when we get to 1 million subscribers. But we're approaching 200 rapidly. I think we're at 193. I believe that's correct. She knows everything. And so 193. So it's going to be great. I'm going to send that. Chase. I'm going to send the kids packing in a little bit, at least for a little while. Our commentary today is about the one phrase that wrestling people need to know and that I see precious little of. And it would help make their lives. Let's not be quiet. No. We're keeping it positive. Yay! If you haven't checked out the last P list, 10 things to do during this whole time where shows are being canceled. And then, of course, a comfortably platinum number 3, which is highly viewed. And we're going to be talking about all the things and all the stuff. I thought this was going to end up being a very short full disclosure news and commentary, but it turns out it's going to be probably a pretty long one. But it was 50, so we wanted to do a little special little intro, and so we did. All right, let's first, as I'm reading our Patreon people, bless you all, can each of you get one thing for me to unbox, please?
Right this one's big and fluffy. I love big and fluffy things.
Thanks to Brett, Brian, Dan, Derek, Diana, Jeffrey, Josh, Larry, not that one, the other one.
Zaid.
Logan, Rob Rod, Southern Honor, Double Dropkick, Joseph Black, and Proc the Croc. And a special thanks to the four donating at $25 or above. It's going to help get those Goodman Awards. Viral Pro Wrestling, Eric Walker, the World Walker, the Tag Team Transcendence, and of course the OG. Myron, what did you pick for me? Which one should I open first? The shirt? Yeah, it's probably a shirt. It may not be a shirt. I'm going to assume it's a shirt.
I thought it was a fluffy thing.
Wait, make sure it's not a glitter bomb. It's mandatory screening.
I put my kids in harm's way. That's what I do.
It's not a glitter bomb.
Not a glitter bomb. Good, thank you.
Probably.
If it
in the traditional sense.
Probably.
Oh! Is that the Keanu Reeves?
It is. I got one of these.
taken, viewers.
Oh, see, I was going to open it to be surprised along with you, but I just couldn't resist. And I bought this for Elena a long time ago, and somebody got it for me. Yay. Actually, somebody let me know a long time ago that this was on its way, and they've just been stacking up. That's why I'm opening 2 today. But that's awesome. I'm going to hold my metal.
Now we can match.
Ooh,
we can be matchies. Every child's dream to match their parents. All right. So that was a joke. Yeah. You're breathtaking, audience. Oh, you wear it. It actually looked better on you. Cool. And we've got this one, which is, I would assume, not a t-shirt.
Wait, glitter bomb. Mandatory screening.
Of course it is.
I mean, I say that, but I've actually gotten more than one. I've got one that was sort of a glitter bomb, and then I got like a legit one. And so I do let Elena check them out because it wouldn't shock.
Open with caution.
It wouldn't shock me if somebody was trying to got me. So we'll open this and then we'll just jump.
With caution.
I'm incapable. By the way, we have a sipping the tea segment tonight, so I've got the hot water ready.
Sip so much tea.
Yeah, I'm gonna call Veronica back because she wants to try the green tea.
I need that kid's sleep gummy to fall asleep. So much tea.
All right, that's what a ham you are.
Bath code. The government is watching.
Oh, leather brown antiqued with initials leather notebook. Oh.
SP.
Oh, they put an SP on there.
Whoa, cool.
Wow. That's legit, man. Leather-bound notebook.
Fancy.
Super
Well,
cool.
open it up. The pages look yellow, like my dictionaries and stuff.
Oh, yeah. Look at that.
And it's so soft.
It's soft.
It is. It's real leather.
I knew we were gonna open something soft.
Kid gloves, if you will. All right. That's amazing.
I'm gonna
Thank you,
try
guys.
that. Not really warm.
All right, the two of you, please scray, because now I'm going to talk about...
My duty is completed. There were no glitter bombs.
All right, thanks, guys. So, there weren't a lot of shows. There were a lot more shows that were canceled and that are soon to be canceled than actually took place. But let's talk about the ones that did take place since our last full disclosure, news and commentary. Anarchy, there wasn't a crowd number on the one report that I saw, but I saw later on that they said that there were like 160. A lot of folks. Georgia Pro Championship Wrestling drew 90. Livewire also did a show. Not sure what they drew. And then Wrestle America drew 175, which for them is lower, but that's to be expected. And then a couple people weren't able to be there, which is also to be expected. So they got Logan Creed as the replacement in the main event, and lo and behold, he beat Payne and became their champion. Pretty amazing. Does this mean, because we're rapidly coming upon WrestleMania season, I said I was going to do top 10 wrestlers of Georgia. Logan Creed looked like he was finally going to fall off of that number one spot, but winning the Wrestle America title, should that matter? I don't know. Debate. Cool. Let's talk about these shows that have canceled. Pro Wrestling Circuit had to cancel. Lariato says they are postponing. Georgia World Class Wrestling canceled, but in their case, that means their actual crowd numbers will probably go up. The Southern Fried fundraiser show was already canceled, though they were intending to run at the Landmark this Saturday, and Total Aggression Pro was going to run on Friday at the Landmark. But we're going to talk about that in a second. And Action had to cancel their next show. So let's talk about Total Aggression Pro and Southern Fried. I want to make something really clear. If they both had their druthers, they would have run. And they may want to paint it differently now, but they would have absolutely run. Total Aggression Pro had no intention of not running. And Southern Fried was full steam ahead. And everything that I saw posted earlier today on Monday was these polls going, should we not run? Would you come to the show? And the people that said that they would come to the show were outnumbering the people that said that they wouldn't. And to me, it looked like they were looking for any excuse to run. But it's Rick, ultimately, who made the call to shut the Landmark down until further notice. So let's talk about it. Was it the right decision? Was it the wrong decision? It's the right decision. It's very hard to hear. There are arguments on both sides. Of course there are. At a time like this, don't we need distraction? Don't we need blah, blah, blah? Sure, find a different one where you're not gathering groups of people when the suggestion has gone from less than 50 people to today less than 10. But you know, this doesn't really matter, right? It's just the flu, and look at these numbers, and for fuck's sake. The other argument is the risk is very low. The risk is very low. But here's my argument. The return would be very low. So you'd get to put on your show. And if something went wrong, it would go very wrong. Imagine, if you will, a scenario where one of these shows ran, and then it was discovered that somebody who turned up positive for CV was at this show. Now, all of a sudden, everybody they came into contact with is at risk. Now, there are shows that are running here in Florida, Atomic Wrestling, for example. But the caution that they've shown, I'll give that to them. They're like, we're going to do this. We're going to look to see when you come in. If you look sick, we're not going to let you in. We're going to do this, that, and the other, right? They're making great pains to say how clean they're going to be, how much they're going to do, blah, blah, blah. I haven't seen that from anybody. I didn't see it from Southern Fried. I didn't see it from Total Aggression. Just a sort of idea that it'll be fine. And even people who I really respect, their attitudes seem to be, well, the risk is really low. If there were already CV cases in Habersham County, would that change your mind? Because there are. What say you now? And if the plan really was for Southern Fried to put a bunch of people who are high risk of having severe reactions to CV in a bus together to bus them over, the judgment is piss fucking poor. So kudos to Rick, right? If Rick made that call, and I'm sure he did. I'm sure it was Rick who made that call. I think if Southern Fried had their devices, they would have run the show. Now, they canceled the fundraiser show, but they were going to run this one. This is pure speculation on my part. Are we that desperate? I guess in some ways we are. The only explanation we got was, well, we didn't want to cancel, so we're going to move the show to a totally different building and make all those people come all this way. And it's I'm not saying it's a cut and dry, black and white, yes, no call. I will say it would have been a horrible look. And I think somebody with a great deal of sense in their head, somebody who is downright legend in Georgia wrestling, it's not me, talked to Rick and talked sense and just said it's an incredibly bad look. Right now, and we're going to talk more about wrestling commissions in regards to the whole thing that happened at New Era, right? Lest we forget, there is a wrestling commission in Georgia, and they do nothing. And that's exactly how we like it. Am I wrong? I don't think I am. And if somebody irresponsibly ran a show where, fully forbid, people got sick or came in contact with somebody who was, can you imagine the fucking havoc? Can you imagine how Rick would have been pillarized for opening up the building? How the government in general would have been like, see, private building, do we have to take control of those too? Do we want an outside commission taking control and saying what we can or cannot do? No. It was incredibly bad fucking judgment for Total Aggression Pro, from whom I expect nothing less, let's be real. And Southern Fried, who I would expect something more, except for the fact that there seems to be an air of desperation. And my heart goes out. Josh Fields, oh my God, he's been fucking dragging his fucking mopey face all over Facebook. So sad because they had to cancel their show. And I get it. Canceling shows fucking sucks, especially when we're looking at the end of the month at the minimum, but realistically, probably well into April as well. And there are promoters that have done the smart thing and the good thing, which is to get ahead of this thing PR-wise and go, there's a very good chance we're going to have to cancel. We don't want to do it. But again, the safety of people is paramount. Now, everybody is saying those words. The safety of our audience and the wrestlers is paramount, yet there's groups that aren't acting that way and groups that are. You can say whatever the fuck you want. It's what you choose to do. And you're saying, Steve, so easy for you to say where you're sitting, blah, blah, blah. Fuck. I ran more shows than any of these motherfuckers in a year. I know how hard it is to cancel shows. Nobody fought against canceling shows more than I did. Ask anybody. Steve, we really can't do it at 8. Fine, we'll do the show at 10. We can't really do it then either. Then we'll do it at midnight. There's a fucking ice storm. Then we're gonna, how many wrestlers showed up? We're gonna do a Platinum Classic then. But on the weekend of my last match, snows hit. And I know that because when I drove up from Florida, there were cars sliding off the road still. And we had to cancel the show the night before. That was going to be at Actors Express, where I was going to get to team with the Exotic Ones against 3 heels, and we had a whole entrance plan. It was going to be fucking amazing, and my heart fucking broke. But what the fuck? I'm going to make people drive on the fucking ice to get there, and it's in Atlanta, so it's already a fucking madhouse, and just couldn't do it. So I get it, and it's frightening and scary as fuck. We don't know what's going to happen. We don't know what's going to happen. Anyway, but this rant isn't over yet, because I gotta give props, right? Now, all the shows that had to cancel because they were in a public building, they canceled. Great. Doesn't really mean they didn't do a noble act. They did what they were forced to do, in essence, right? By the way, the WWE WrestleMania thing, I know a lot of people know this, but a lot of people do not. The reason they're holding out and not canceling that show that is obviously going to be canceled, or at the very least moved to the Performance Center, ooh, that's like WrestleMania, is because it's an insurance reason, right? They got to have the place cancel, tell them that they can't run so they can collect the insurance money. But until that happens, and by the way, the fact that neither one of them are making the right move is really fucking terrible. Because the attitude, it's WrestleMania is not going to happen in that fucking stadium. It's not happening. So everybody's just waiting for the other side to blink or move first. WWE doesn't want to give up all that insurance money that they'll get, that they would have to give up if they announced the cancellation before it was declared that they had to. I don't know what the fuck the counties and the city's waiting for. Just fucking do it. Maybe the insurance company is like, don't do it because we don't want to fucking pay out those millions of dollars. In any case, it's one of those situations where everybody ends up looking bad. And that's what would have happened here if they had run those shows in the Landmark. Everybody would have looked fucking bad. And potentially, it could have been a disaster for everybody. But I got to give kudos to Atlanta Wrestling Entertainment, to Murder, but especially Josh Wheeler, who made the call. They weren't in a public building. They're in a private building. They could have ran. I think they could have probably got away with it PR-wise in a different way. But they made the right call. They made the smart call, and they did it early in the game, so you know it wasn't insincere. And you know it was them making the decision. I gotta give fucking props to them. This might shock a lot of people, but I calls them as I sees them. That's why I'm so sexy. And Atlanta Wrestling Entertainment, fucking good call. Way to lead from the front. Way to be how everybody should be. I know it's fucking hard, guys. I mean, I know I've already said that a bunch of times already. But I know. But you just gotta do it. Being a fucking grown-up and being responsible and being the kind of place that's worthy for a paying audience comes at a cost. And right now, everybody's paying that fucking cost. And kudos to the ones who are paying it, even if it's begrudgingly, they're doing it. And they're doing it in a forthright manner. Kudos, Atlanta Wrestling Entertainment, and for Rick making the call when he needed to make it. End of rant. Let's tea sip in this bitch. Veronica! So, let me prepare this tea. Videos that are coming out. Now people are asking me. My plan is tomorrow to put together the one of my new wrestling league, which means I have to film the intro with the kids tonight. It's going to be silly. It's going to be fun, but it's also going to be a teaching tool at the same time, but in very fun fashion. That's my hope anyway. It's a new thing, so it is what it is. And I've almost got enough stuff. People now send me things to do another Comfortably Platinum. It's freaking awesome. Veronica! Yes, it is tea time. My prediction, she is not going to like the green tea at all, but she's a weird one.
I'm gonna drink the tea.
All right.
I'm going to watch you with great suspicion.
All right. So here's how you prepare the tea. Shh, don't just jabber. You can talk, but don't just jabber on endlessly.
What's happened?
Meaning just talk. Make decisions about what you're saying. So first you take matcha, it's called. And then you turn, and then that shakes all the tea off of there. Then I already boiled some water.
Careful, it's gonna.
You want to whisk it up?
Let me grab
So do I just whisk it up like normal whisk?
Yeah. Don't push too hard. It's very delicate. It's Japanese, kid.
Japanese is always delicate.
It is.
Except for the people we punch.
That's true. Oh, that's true. Thanks.
No problem.
These kids. Some dummy spilled water on his laptop. All right. Turn. You want the first sip? Because I love you. What do you think? You want some more?
Okay.
Can you believe it?
Nobody squid.
Did you want to try some?
I'm good.
Yeah, it's probably for the best.
It tastes kind of like grass. I tried to eat it in my
Because
human
you wouldn't
form.
like it. You try to drink it in your human form. All right. So what are we sipping tea about? So recently it came up on Facebook. Some C. Nick did a thing about like, why is Georgia thing covering an Alabama thing, meaning the whole new era Havens versus fans thing. And I get it. I finally get it. And even the people who were supporting C. Nick. And I, in a very immature but hilarious fashion, just destroyed him and broke down everything. And, you know, every argument they tried to make, why is Georgia covering? And then Stan Robinson and other people just pointed out, like, Georgia wrestling history has always covered the Southeast. Right? And I followed up with, yeah, like Scenic City, that's Tennessee, we cover it. You know, PWX is North Carolina, we cover it. We cover Tennessee, we cover the Carolinas, we cover Florida stuff. We even put up Puerto Rico news every week. Puerto Rico.
That's where Alice Sandside is from. Puerto Rico. You
Nice.
wouldn't know it.
You wouldn't know her, that's one of her toys. So, anyway.
Well, it's not my toy. It's an actual human being I met at school. It's confusing. The way you know is Alexandrite's toy name is Alex, and Alice Sandsite's toy name is Alice. So we cleared it up here.
Squid,
So let's end that round. And so So every time somebody would point out something, see Nick would have something. Well, you should cover the wrestlers that aren't being covered enough. I mean, you don't have time to cover all of that. First of all, we can cover whatever the earmuffs. Cover your ears. Fuck an earmuff. We want. We can cover whatever we want, first of all. And again, these are all people working volunteer basis. Rob Rod, Tapped Out Guys, Larry, even Scott Hensley when he contributes, Drew Blood, me, myself. We'll do what we want, first of all. But I think it's safe to say we've never had this much blanket coverage of Georgia in general. And now we're trying to bring South Georgia more and more into the fold through the Professors of Wrestling and through groups like Spinebuster, which get their name out there, right? But yet they always want more. So I suggested to see Nick, since he has such a strong presence online, and he has a podcast of his own, that he can cover them. And he said, maybe I will. I will. Because, and he took a swipe at me, right? This is tea sipping petty time, right? I'm not just on YouTube. I'm on iTunes and Spotify and all this other stuff, blah, blah, blah. So somebody, thanks for the help, buddy, sent me a picture. You know how many podcasts See Nick has done in 8 months? 3 real ones and then a 3-minute one with a song on it. And once he was confronted with this, what do you think he said? Well, because I got a real life. I don't have time for all that.
Real life is no... What?
That's what I said, because goodness knows I don't work constantly every single day.
You do.
I know I do. You still find times for the things that are important. And at the end of the day, of course, they deleted all the comments after I got done dragging everybody through the mud and smashing them in the face, which I totally understand. But I'm bringing it up here because, one, it's awesome. And two, as a reminder to everybody, not that I can never be challenged, but if you are full of earmuffs, shit, then for goodness sakes, keep your opinions to yourself by and large. Georgia wrestling history covers the Southeast. Now, one of the cover your ears, shits, who was defending C. Nick, they kept trying to, that's how you knew they were losing, because they had to keep coming up with a new thing as things would get countered again and again and again. And they said, well, you should change the name to Southeast Wrestling History. The focus, fools, is Georgia. The brand is Georgia Wrestling History. It's been around longer than you've been in the wrestling business, and it'll be here long after you are out of the wrestling business. And when you are out of the wrestling business will be better for it.
Oh!
That's the end of the tea.
Spilling the tea that we are drinking. How's the tea? It tastes like plants.
Tasty. It's delicious.
If you minus the plants, it tastes really good.
All right.
The plants are half the tea.
Now we're going to talk about the Ace Haven situation. You guys should probably get out of here because this is going to get long, involved. For you, perhaps boring. And for me, I'm going to get all ranty and cussy. And I don't want you to have to hear them up 97 times.
My dad's two
All right.
favorite hobbies.
Let's talk about New Era Wrestling. I understood when the promoter wanted Larry to pull that video because he's worried about the commission. It went down. And then when that second video came out from a different angle that looked much more ferocious of a fight, and it had the elements of, it went from the first video where it's Amy Haven kind of goading the fan, and then that fan popping out of her chair, hitting Amy Haven once, and then swinging wildly, and then it broke down, and then Ace came in and blam, hit her and swinging wildly, and then a bunch of guys jumped Ace, and that second video, which is like Amy Haven screaming as Ace is like fending off all of these rather rotund gentlemen, and one of them got up, and his woman obviously was grabbing him to stop, and he hesitated for a second, but then he kind of started advancing towards there anyway. I don't know if he did anything, but supposedly 30 people ended up being involved in this fracas, and what a mess. And I can see the promoter not wanting that video out there, but it's out there. And you know how many views it has? Do you know how many views that first video has? 111,000 as of a couple of hours ago. Let me repeat that. 111,000 views. Cat's way out of the fucking bag now. Who's at fault? It becomes more apparent who's at fault when you begin to break it down. There were no barriers of any kind, not even the terrible string ones I used to see at shows, but certainly not the kind of barriers that you're probably supposed to have under Alabama Wrestling Commission, right? I'm sure barriers are a minimal part of the deal. They had nothing. Security, non-existent. Like I said, that's one thing I've been impressed with at the Florida shows that I've gone to, is there have been security, right? At WXW, they're obviously wrestling students, but 4 in security outfits at each corner, and whenever the action got even a little bit close to the fans, they would be right there to make sure nobody was running into anybody. And they had barriers, by the way. These are the obvious answers. The other obvious person who's at fault is that fucking lady that came out of the crowd. What a fucking disgrace. The crowd themselves should be appalled that an audience member got involved in the show in that way. It's fucking appalling. And if it was true that she's yelling fucking homophobic slurs and all the rest of it, that's fucking embarrassing too. And we've seen too much of that, right? With what Huckabee had to deal with, what apparently Austin Towers had to deal with from a little girl calling him the N-word and all this kind of stuff. I mean, abhorrent, right? So this lady comes out, immediately hits Amy Haven. And then, of course, wrestlers chime in with their opinions all over the place, right? Amy Haven should have defended herself better, and they got beat down, and Ace Haven shouldn't have hit the woman that hit his wife, and all this stuff. I'm going to get to that. I'm going to address that in a second. But let's assign the clear blame. The promoter for not having adequate security or barriers, while being in a state that probably demands all of that, and to not meet the minimum requirements that could have prevented this from happening. They are a heavy amount of the fault. The audience member, that initial woman, who got out of her chair because she got riled up and attacked Amy Haven physically, they should have thrown that bitch in jail. Period. She is completely at fault as well. Amy Haven. What is her fault? Acting like a heel. Okay, that doesn't seem to be a problem. If her side is to be believed, and I saw a post where she said, once this lady in the crowd said the F word about Ace, she asked her in a regular tone of voice, calm tone of voice, not to say those things. Instead, that just got the lady ramped up. So at that point, Amy Haven went into heel mode, did this bit. How much fault does Amy Haven have? Nothing there. Then the lady hit her, and they started kind of getting into it. No fault there. Now you're Ace Haven. Your wife's getting hit. But more than that, everything's happening in the blink of an eye. And all these people making fucking Monday morning quarterback judgments. when it's just a situation where shit's going down, your wife's getting attacked. Notice I'm using the word attacked and not struck. I would imagine that Ace didn't have anything cognitively running through his head. He just reacted to a violent situation happening to his wife. I can't believe I'm having to spell this out, but I guess I'm going to. So his wife is being assaulted with a great deal of energy and gusto. And for people that said, well, you didn't have to hit her, what if I told you? Because I'm finding stuff out about this all the time. That lady had a knife in her hand. Oh, you feel differently now, do you? Well, she didn't. But did Ace know that? I would imagine he did not. I don't imagine that he was consciously thinking, oh, she has a knife, or she might have a knife, or he just knew that there was a violent altercation happening with his wife. Could he have just tackled her? Sure. Could he have wrapped her up? Sure. Blink of an eye. So he went over there, started swinging, and then he had to eat one in return. Next guy that came in, sucker punched him, and I'm calling it that, a sucker punch. And then fucking all those blueberry pie contest motherfuckers started jumping in the fray, and things just went to shit, and nobody had their back until it was well out of hand. Is anything that I've said here wrong or assuming too much? I don't think so. To recap, promoter fucked up because he's the one who could have had preventative measures in place that could have psychologically de-escalated this thing before it even started. Certainly the bitch that jumped out of her fucking seat is completely wrong. The guy that came out and hit Ace afterwards has a lot of blame, but then again, his woman's getting punched by a dude. I get it. And then everybody else is just joining in the fray, are probably typical that that's how they always act. Mob rule bullshit. Who else can share some of this blame? How about the general atmosphere of that crowd? How about the fact that there wasn't a cooler head apparently anywhere around that area? Or if so, they didn't have the courage to act. It's hard. I'm not saying it's easy. When you're part of a group, and a wrestling crowd is a group, it's hard to run counter to what somebody in your group is doing. But they should have. As soon as that bitch jumped out of her seat, there should have been a call, there should have been an uprising verbally that was not okay. But again, it happened in the blink of an eye. I get that. But if you look at the people sitting in their seats, they watched with almost a passive disinterest at first. That the very act of stepping out of the seat and going right next to the ring didn't warrant a huge reaction is troubling. Again, the preventative measure of having barriers there could have possibly prevented all of this. Having security that didn't have their thumbs up their asses would have helped as well. The bitch had jumped out of her seat, completely wrong. But let me say this and reverse it in a way that you are not expecting. This wasn't a case of old school wrestling heat. This is a case of if you let the crowd take over the show, they're gonna take over your fucking show. This is my indictment at how wrestling fans have been coddled, catered to, and told again and again and again how important they are. And all wrestling fans are expected to do is give the barest amount of lip service gratitude, and in exchange they can say whatever the fuck they want and do whatever they want. I bought a ticket so I can act any way that I want. Fuck that shit. So all of you who get so upset when I say fuck the fans, that's why. Because until you put them back in their fucking seat, until you stop them from becoming the people in the back, shit like this is going to happen, especially in the fucking podunks. But even Atlanta Wrestling Entertainment had to deal with fans that did a little too much, not to that extent. But if you let fans right up against the ring, and I've been to other shows that do this, at some point, are one of the fans going to fucking touch one of the wrestlers and try to fucking get involved in a match? Yes, and it's happened. And it's fucking stupid. Put them in the chair. Give them a show. And for crying out fucking loud, keep them in the chair. Now it's time for our commentary. What's the phrase? 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 What's the phrase that I don't see enough? And this isn't just about wrestling stuff. And this just isn't about to run a show or not run a show. That is the question. This is not just about what should the WWE do about WrestleMania. This is about wrestling people that I see constantly talking about the CV thing and expounding conspiracy theories and all the rest of it. You know what I would love to see? What I would love to read, and I would love to hear, even though it would provide cold comfort at best? This phrase. I don't know. Why the fuck are you dumb fucks incapable of saying, I don't know? Especially when you don't know! Oh yeah, this is just about the government trying to control us so they can dictate. You know how fucking dumb you sound right now? Oh, it's just like a cold and people are just, the media's whipping it. People are dying, and in other countries they're dying, and it's cotton root. It's taken hold. I work with the fucking public. I work with people from all over the world. Today, took care of clients that were going to Thailand, and a couple of others that were going to New Jersey, New York, and other ones that were going to Minnesota. And I talked to all of them. You know what they have the ability to do? And these are people who are often captains of industry. They have the ability to say, I don't know. I don't know what's going to happen. I don't know what's going to come of all this. I don't know what I'm going home to. I don't know how long this is going to last. And what they do is they take the things that they do know and apply that liberally. I do know that if everybody could stay the fuck away from each other for a couple of weeks, this thing wouldn't spread out nearly as much. I do know that if we had more testing kits, it would probably work a lot better, and we don't. I do know that in other places of the world, they aren't sitting here screaming that it's some conspiracy against the president or for the president. They're just dealing with their fucking horrible reality. It's a terrible thing about America. It's great that we have the individual strengths and the freedoms that we're so proud of, but we are loath to be responsible. We are loath to sacrifice. Sacrifice is for other people. That's what we've come to believe. In society at large in America, and in the wrestling business in particular, that sacrifice is unacceptable, that you can't have it all. But you can't. At the end of the day, pro wrestling is a fantasy-based entertainment business. Does it serve a vital function in society? Yes. Do all artistic ventures serve a vital place in society? Yes. And are there theaters, for example, and I'm intimately involved in a bunch of theaters and have been traditionally, are they suffering way more than your individual indie wrestling group? Yes. Because they have bills that they constantly have to pay because they have real venues that are theirs. And that doesn't apply to most indies. It applies to a couple, I'll grant you. How much better would individual wrestlers be if they could say, I don't know, to certain things? I don't know if I should post this because it's going to make me look bad. Maybe I should consult somebody else. Bookers. I don't know if this particular route is going to go over well with the boys or if it's really going to work with the crowd. Maybe I should confer with somebody that I trust. Promoters. I don't know if running a wrestling show right now is the smartest fucking thing to do. So instead of going in with the idea of, I'm going to make this money, I'm going to make it happen, and see everything through that lens, if at all possible, and if I have to pretend that it's something political or whatever, or some kind of conspiracy, that's what I'm going to do, so because I want to run this show, instead of just going, I don't know if it's a good idea truly. The ability to say, I don't know, is freeing because it is something that people in wrestling are loath to do, which is to be honest, which is to not pretend to be an expert in every fucking thing in the world. And that might sound rich to you coming from me, because in your eyes, Steve, he always fucking thinks he knows everything. No, I make mistakes all the time, and then I do my best to correct them. But two things I despise: hypocrite and a motherfucker who makes people's lives worse by being so confident and arrogant and being stupid and ignorant. Learn to say, I don't know, instead of rallying people behind your ignorant bullshit. I don't care if it's your stupid theories about CV. I don't care if it's your fucking stupid political views on both sides of the spectrum and how you're trying to attach this fucking virus to it. I don't care if it's your inability to see things as they really are in favor of how you want them to be perception-wise. Your inability to say, I don't know, there's a good chance that that's what's fucking you up. Look at your life and apply it. How come you're not where you want to be in the wrestling business? Start with, I don't know. And then do what you're supposed to do when you truly don't know. Consult others. Do a deeper analysis that you haven't done before. Look at evidence and draw conclusions. Instead of, oh, it's because, people are against me, that's why. I don't know. Your ability to admit that you don't know every fucking thing will make your life so much better. As long as, after you say, I don't know, you find a proper source. Or a few of them. And then use critical problem solving to ascertain the real answer. There's a number of you who think you do this, but you're wrong. You're dead wrong. What you do is convince yourself that you are the most free-thinking, you are the most knowledgeable, and everybody else is just sheep. But you know the real deal. Those people who say things like that tend to be the most unhappy, ignorant, lame living motherfuckers I know. My life is not perfect. It's not close to it. However, this is how I know I achieved a very high level of education. And make no mistake about it, I absolutely did. My undergraduate degree would fucking blow most people away. English, poli-sci double major, philosophy minor, ethnic studies. A lot of credits, took a while. Then I got a master's degree, knocked that thing out. Got into a PhD program and law school and pursued those as well. It's a lot of fucking education. And the higher up I got, you know what I found out? How much I did not know. It's very humbling. It's very hard. And God knows I still make fucking mistakes all the time. But allow me to brag on myself a little bit. Those two upstairs right now who are giggling and having fun, and they love each other's company. They're pretty fucking great. I don't think any rational person would deny that. That didn't just happen. That happened because I've spent a lifetime working with kids through jobs and things like that. And I had a keen interest. Listen to them laugh, man. They're happy. And it didn't just happen. And I didn't have to hit them to do it. Didn't have to scare them to do it. I didn't have to operate at the lowest level of the morality pyramid. Want of reward or fear of punishment. We're past that. How did it happen? Because when I would run into a situation with them that I didn't quite understand, I would tell myself, I don't know. And then I would go through great pains to figure it out. And I would let them know, I'm not sure how to handle that. It's why the older one comes to me constantly. Dad, I'm dealing with this situation. What would you do? And sometimes my initial answer is, I'm not sure. Let me think about it, or let's you and I talk about it and have a dialogue, and maybe we'll figure it out together. And you know what that means to her? The world. Because she knows I'm not bullshitting her. Can I bullshit? I was in wrestling. And still kind of am. Yes, I can bullshit. Have I lied before? Absolutely. But when it comes to them, I do my damnedest not to do it. And an honest person is a person that says, I don't know more than I'm absolutely sure that. Hear that. Understand that. The truly honest person is somebody who says, I don't know more than they say, oh yeah, it's this for sure. Because the smarter you are and the more honest you are, the more you realize there's a whole world of shit that you don't know and you don't understand. It's not an excuse for you to remain ignorant, but it is a charge for you to alleviate your ignorance instead of pretending and being a pseudo fucking expert, because we have precious too many of those in wrestling right now. People who fucking think they know, who absolutely don't. Laziness is an issue, dishonesty is an issue, but so is delusion. And the people who can never say I don't know are the most deluded motherfuckers going. And in a fantasy-based business like pro wrestling, we can ill afford to have the people who are supposed to be the leaders of the industry be delusional. We're already fighting too many battles on the pro wrestling front, are we not? Public perception is not very high. The popularity is not very high. We don't need more motherfuckers making the rest of us look as ignorant as they are. When you do shoddy business, you fuck it up for everybody else. When you're a loudmouth dipshit asshole online, you fuck it up for everybody else. When you make mistakes that are potentially catastrophic, you're really fucking it up for everybody else. Whether people know it or not, we've dodged a number of bullets in the last 3 or 4 days. But somebody put a thing up online that I saw recently. It's the meme of the guy going, where it's like wrestlers when they're bored and they see something that they can pounce on. How fucking true is that? You don't always have to mob up, posse up, and jump all over a thing, especially when you don't know what the fuck you're talking about. It's going to be a rough time. Shows canceling left and right. For sure it's going until the end of March, but let's be fucking real. We don't know if this is going to go through April or May or June. It might. It might. So instead of pretending that you know exactly what's going to happen and when you do not, and instead of pretending that you know what people should exactly do because you do not, let's just admit we don't know. But if we work together and don't cut each other's throats, maybe we can get through it and actually come out better on the other side. That's my sincere hope. And if it's not yours, then get the fuck out of the way so we can make this situation as bearable as possible and then as good as possible. Because if motherfuckers keep coming out publicly with their ignorant bullshit, I gotta tell you, I do have a little bit of a platform here, and frankly, I don't know what I'll be capable of doing. This has been Full Disclosure.